Hi, this is Podcasters Unleashed, and I'm your host, Simon Rushton. Today we will be discussing feminism. Is it just sexism? Sounds like a spicy, controversial subject. See how we're going to get on with this. Before we start that subject, I'm going to allow my guests to introduce each other, starting with Carla.
I'm Carla from Wonder and Wellbeing Podcast. That's a podcast for parents and teachers of kids between the ages of 5 and 14 years old. And we discuss everything to do with education and wellbeing.
Matilda?
Hello, I'm host of Coffee with Matilda, A Journey to Self. And my podcast is about finding yourself, loving yourself, and understanding who you really are. And your potential.
Victor, come on.
Oh, yeah. Hi, my name is Victor. I'm the host of the Diaspora Entrepreneurs Podcast. And my podcast is about those who want to ditch the 9 to 5 and start investing in Africa.
Nelson? Please unmute yourself, Nelson.
Sorry about that. Hey, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. My name is Nelson Jason Brano. I'm the host of Investing in America, where we talk about how to invest in U.S. real estate. And we also leave a certain number of episodes apart for interviewing additional interesting people, such as entrepreneurs and high-performance people. I look forward to having you on Investing in America. Thank you.
And the lovely Howla.
Thank you, Simon. So I'm the host of the podcast Women Stories, where I share real stories about real women around the world who rose above different challenges and went to different countries. So you could be inspired by hearing their stories.
Okay, that's good. So starting off, let's just define what feminism is. On Google or the English dictionary, Collins Dictionary, however you want to see it, it's the advocacy of women's rights on the ground of the equality, of the sexes. So we're all on the same page of what feminism, the definition is. Now, we will handle this on the aspect of how it's portrayed, not the different zones of feminism and how it's portrayed. And the first question I would throw out to all of you is, do you think feminism is just sexism? Anyone feel free to start the show.
Yeah. Hey, Carla, ladies first.
Yeah, actually, the feminist word, if you Google through Wikipedia and see the real definition, it was created by a French man in 1837. And he claimed that all the activist women in the Western societies who are claiming their rights, socioeconomic rights and basic rights, they should be called as a feminist, which is something absurd to me. Like, why someone is claiming their rights, they need to have a word sticking to them as a feminist. I mean, what is wrong in a society. And if it's something is unjust in the world and there's injustice in the world, it's the human instincts to fight for it, whether it's a male or female. So yeah, that's my definition for the feminist.
The question was, though, is feminism sexist?
I would answer that.
Go on then.
I don't think it's a gender issue. It's a humanity issue. So, no.
Okay. Do you want to expand on that?
Well, I think we need a balanced society. We have to look at what feminism did to the history of humankind. I mean, it empowered women. It gave women voice. It gave women the ability to choose. We still need feminism in lots of ways because we still don't have the right representation in the society, in the politics, for example. So, I mean, later on I can go more details about it, but I think feminism was an important movement It was a revolution. It was an important movement for human history, for humankind, for men and for women.
Yeah, let me just a quick one. You know, the word you used just now, Nelson, ladies first, that can be construed, or it is being construed by some really, really diehard feminists as sexist. Because if we are all equal, according to the definition of feminism, anyone can go first. So you get what I'm saying? Yeah, so I just want to bring that up.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I'll give you guys my thing about feminism. Okay, my experience with it was at a very young age. Okay, and this is my experience, and unfortunately, this this kind of came in. So for me, feminism, I was a little kid, grew up in Brooklyn. You know, I lived in South America, Brooklyn, and in Brooklyn, the subways, you run up and down the kids, you know, you take the subway and then you run up, right, and then you run up. And I remember I was a kid. I wasn't past 13 years old, and you love to run up the subway, and then the doors open to get out of the subway station, not the to the train. And I remember you would open up the door running, but then the thing would slam back behind you. And I remember I'm going running up the stairs, you know, 10, 12, 13 years old. I run up, and I remember you not kick the door open, you swing it open, and it has that spring, so it comes back. So I held it open because, you know, you always taught, hey, careful with the people behind you. And I remember I held the door open, and, you know, you're a kid. And this lady, she was all dressed up, you know, and she just lays into me. You don't think I can hold the door open for myself? You know, and I'm like this little kid. I'm like, lady, I'm like 10, 12 years old. You're an adult. I thought I was doing, and she just lays into my ass, right? You think because I'm a woman? And I'm like, lady, what did I do to you? I'm scared to death, right? Because he's a teacher, an adult, da da da. And then she walks away. Now she's kind of like a little bit embarrassed. She's turning all red because she's like yelling at this little kid who all he did was hold the door open so it didn't slam shut. And you know, I'm like, oh my goodness, what did I do? And then the men who came behind, who saw these older guys, you know, and I remember they looked at me and they gave me this look like, kid, that's what you get for trying to be a nice guy. You should have just let the door close on these bam, 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 bam. And for some reason, that just stuck in my brain. You know, that just kind of stuck in my brain right there. So to me, I just was like, I want nothing to do with these people. They're kind of messed up in the head. If this lady thinks that a 10, 12-year-old kid who, you know, is running around and holds the door open for us so it doesn't slap her in the face deserves that kind of treatment, to me, I want nothing to do with you guys. And that just kind of stuck in my mind. So that was my first impression of feminism. My second one is we're equal until the bill comes, right? When the bill comes and the bill comes, then it's like, oh my goodness, I'm so ladylike. So yeah, so I said it, I laid it out. My impression of it.
Carla?
Well, we've got up on the screen the definition of sexism, and I think that's important to bring into the conversation at this point, because I think in answer to your question, feminism can be used as an excuse for sexism when people don't really understand what Howler and Matilda said about the humanity aspect of it and what it means to have rights and to defend those rights, whatever you are, whatever your gender is. I think if you're using feminist movement or any feminist groups or feminist arguments to justify any kind of prejudice, stereotyping or discrimination against men or against anyone, then sexism becomes a tool. You know, it becomes the effect of the feminist argument. And I think we've seen that it's something that has happened a lot from what I've seen, and just the history of feminism has sometimes been used for other people's advantage and hasn't always furthered the interests of women or improved the situation for women. And sometimes it's actually made it worse as well.
What I would, this is some facts. Obviously, people, you all know me, and I've lived in Kenya for many years. And there's a lot of feminist groups go out there who try to educate the young women. And what they found, that they've been there for 10, 20 years, even 30 years. And the young males have been neglected. And now you've got this generation of young females who are educated and, you know, doing more than reasonably well, but now they're looking for a companion. And all they're left with is young men who aren't educated and are frustrated because they're not getting the jobs and they haven't had the same opportunities. And it causes a lot of domestic issues. And now they're recognizing that what you need to do is actually spend time on both. So this is argumentatively a big point for when you're educating the young, yeah, and you're meaning well, but later on you get a unforeseen backlash or hiccup, but you had good intentions. So that's something I just wanted to share in that respect of things.
Hey, excuse me, right quick. We just got something here in that came from Mandisa Kumalo. Feminism gave me a language to explain what was wrong in the world. I do feminism. It's a verb. So for her, it's not a noun, it's a verb. Okay.
Okay. Go on, Matilda.
Yeah. My question is my response is to Nelson and a lot of other people. Sasha has the same kind of an experience as well.
Matilda, I will hold the door open for you, okay? I will hold the door open for you.
I want to make
Whoever comes behind you, forget about it.
But I want all of us to understand what feminist is. Feminist is a woman who lives the life she chooses. Feminists are not angry lesbians who hate men. Feminists do not believe women are better than men or that women deserve special privileges. They do not believe that women are victims. In order to be considered a feminist, you only need to be on board with one idea. All humans, male and female, should have equal political, economic, and social rights. And that's it. I don't know how media is portraying feminism in a wrong way. We just want equal rights, equal pay.
Well, let me ask you,
Matilda, Nelson, just a second. Matilda, see, the loudest noise from the feminist movement are the radicals. They are the ones who say that everything, they have many issues. Everything is the fault of men. We've been oppressed for the past, God knows, since creation of time. See, what you mentioned now is just the textbook definition of feminism, where everyone, every decent human being, male or female, should believe in the right of equality of both sexes. But when you start pushing feminist agenda, oh no, equal rights, because the men have been dominating politics for the past 100 years, 1,000 years. Now women need to take charge. Now women need to be this, women need to be that. It kind of pushes, there's no balance. We all have men and male and female energy. So there's no balance when it comes to, because see, when it comes to politics, we all know that at the moment, there are so many opportunities for women to come on the political landscape. Economically, the world is so balanced right now. We're in a very great time right now where women can do anything they want to do. But when it becomes radical, then that is where the problem is.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, go.
I mean, you're looking at the political part of view and point of view, so I'm going to answer the political part. In all demographics, females vote more than men. Yet, women still hold less than 20% of seats in Congress, even though they make more than the half of the population.
That's in the United States.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good.
Still, there is a 23% pay gap. Explain that in America alone.
That is, see, I'm not sure that is even correct.
Can I'll just jump in there. Excuse me.
I'm not sure, because if you're doing the same job that I'm doing in the same office, how?
Victor, is this what your opinion is? Because the facts in the world are very different.
The facts, when you say facts, where? The facts
everywhere in the world. I live, I mean, in America, it's the same.
Yes,
law
not
firms,
in my world.
Victor, law firms. Law firms pay less.
See, Matilda, not in my world.
Matilda?
You go to Iran, it's the same. The engineers in America, the women engineers, they pay less. These are facts.
Can I answer Victor's? Can I answer it? Because there is a fact. The statistics came on. It's about the gender inequality, and gender inequality is a major cause for hunger and poverty in the entire world. So you can see that they estimate 60% of hunger and poverty related to women and girls in the whole world. So can you imagine if women have the same equality and the same rights, they will raise the economy. We don't want to challenge men's abilities. We want to help to raise the economy and to have the equal rights. That's what should be understood in the mainstream society today. That's what Matilda wants to say, I guess.
All right. Well, just to give you some facts, yeah. Obviously, you've got career women, you've got stay-at-home women. Not all women are feminists, as we know. I can vouch for instance, my family, the women in my family, from my sisters to my aunts, they say they're not interested in that. It's not our problem. It's not there, and they're more than happy to be at home and look after the kids when the kids are young. They think that's much more. Let me finish. Matilda. Okay, wait your turn. Okay.
Woman first.
Oh, Jesus. Don't let me call it Carla. Press the special button. Okay. Okay, let's behave ourselves. Yeah. Okay. So what the point is there is not all women believe in feminism. And also if you look at the job comparison, yeah. If as a man I took a break in my career to look after children, when I come back I'm gonna get less money than the person who stayed in their career. That's just a fact. Also, you have to look on measures of scale. Yeah. If I produce, I can be measured. If another person looks after people in a hospital, you can't really measure that. Women take jobs of empathy. Men take jobs, objects. Men do hard jobs, much harder jobs. They work on building sites, they're outside on roads. They go to war. They do lots and lots of different kind of things. So when you're doing comparisons, these are the things you need to take into consideration. Also, most ladies, and probably like yourself, you're going to have children. You're going to take a break. That's your decision. You can't then turn around and then complain that you're not on the equal pay and you took a break. And most women in their mid-30s, they realize it's not all about their career. They want to start focus on their family, where men do just carry on because they've got nothing else to do. And to me, that's not even a good thing on the men's part. Women should be happy that they can have a bit of a career, and also they get the advantage of staying home with the kids. It's not a problem. Shouldn't be an issue at all. But go on, Matilda. I know you're itching.
I know. Listen, Simon, again, I think you guys don't understand the definition of feminist. I'm going to emphasize it again because I want the listeners to understand as well. A feminist is a woman who lives the life she chooses. Now, she chooses to have 5 children. She will have a 5 child. She chooses to not have a child at all. She chooses not to marry or marry and have multiple partners. She chooses that. She wants to be a CEO, good for her. She wants to be a president, good for her. She wants to have children from different men. She can have children from different men. She just lives her life the way she wants. That's it. That's feminism.
but there's also something called a repercussion. So what you're saying, just the same way a male would make a decision, he to deal with his outcome. So if you want to have children with lots of different women, you're going to be paying a lot of bills, and you won't get to see all your children. That's just an outcome. You don't complain about it, you just get on with it. Now, back to what Victor was saying, is that the perception of feminism is that you're not coming to the table to have a debate, you're coming in the table to bash. And in bashing, let me finish. Let me finish. I'm not talking about you specifically. Generally, that's perception that's given. Now, when you come to the table to bash, and on top of that, everything you have is due to an invention from men, it's like, really? What are you complaining about? Because from the clothes you wear, to the roads that you travel on, to the building you live in, to the medical care, it's all surrounded about men. Even if you look at, and you talk about women and feminism and all of this, but I'll tell you some facts. For instance, who's suffering?
Hey, Simon, one second. We got some really interesting comments that came in. We've got from Angela Young. Pregnancy is not a break. That's hard work.
But it is a break if you've got a career. If you've got a career, it's a break. Don't get me wrong. Personally, it's hard work. That goes without saying. Looking after children, all of that's hard work. But if you're in a career, it's a break. You're taking a break from your career. It's very simple.
Okay. So, ladies, anything to add to that? We've got a lot of really good comments coming in.
One thing I would say to that as well, and this is one of the issues that I have with feminism as a movement and the way it's been used, not the concept of feminism, as Matilda's described, but the movement and the way that the movement has been railroaded and used for the advantage of certain groups who want to push their interests. And one of the issues I have is when they argue, for example, for equal pay. Now, I actually believe that women, I know it's going to be controversial, but I think in certain times women should actually be paid more than men. And I'll give you an example of that, because in the world today, we have a lot of single mothers, and they're not all single mothers because of their own choices, or they've made the choice to live their life a certain way. That's not true. And actually, it seems unfair that people would argue on behalf of women who are looking after 3-4 children on the same salary as a single woman who has no children. That sounds ridiculous, just from a logic point of view. How can you share your salary that would be designed for you as an individual career woman with you and 3 children on your own? And why would anybody argue for you to have equal pay with a man who might be single, or a man who might have a wife that's actually is taking up a job at home that costs a lot? If you look at the economic cost of doing laundry, looking after children, cleaning a house, maintaining a home, all of that comes up with a financial cost. And those issues where people are arguing for equality, I think, are flawed in many, many ways. And what Angela's saying about pregnancy, it's not a break. And actually, when women take time to go and look after children, they're doing something that's to the advantage of society, but there's no financial recognition for that. And I think that's an issue that is often overlooked by the feminist movement as a whole. And it doesn't really fight for the interests of women when it misses those key points.
Yesterday, go on, Victor.
Yesterday, I was educated by I had this debate with I have 2 teenagers. So they were giving me different levels of different types of feminism. Then after the education, I said, yes, I am a feminist because I want, don't clap yet, because I'm not radical. So the term that they coined for me was liberal feminism, which means that equality for both genders. That is it. They came up with this Marxist feminism, indifference or difference. So there are so many layers to it. But the one that we actually see on social media, on everyday conversation, on the train, like the experience of Nelson long time ago, that is absolutely radical feminism. Yeah, there's no 2 ways about that.
I mean, let me hold on a second. Let me ask you a question. to the ladies in the group, and we've got a lot of good comments coming in. We're about to hit into Andice's comment. If we're honest about most industries are male dominated, patriarchy is maintained, and it's a tool of capitalism. That much is inescapable. So I think we're going to hit on it in a second. So let me ask you, let's say you are the mom of that 10-year-old Nelson, right? And you watch 10-year-old Nelson running up the subway stairs because he's a 10-year-old. And he opens that door and the thing flings back, but he holds it open. And that lady just lays into that kid. That lady just lays in, says to him, that little black kid, he's just happy. You don't think I can hold my own door? Land. What would y'all say to that woman?
Don't shout at my child. If you know what's good for you, don't shout at my child.
and I'm gonna hold that question open for the woman in this. As a matter of fact, I'll make that question for the females that are joining in the conversation. That feel free to hold on a second, Matilda. Let me for the women out there, I want them to also participate and join in the discussion. Okay? So, all right, I'm all ears.
Well, Nelson, I can give you the same example too. I've been in a subway that
No, hold on.
That's not the question, Matilda. Answer the question. Answer the question, Matilda.
You know what went on with that woman's life that day.
Okay,
That's not the question, Matilda. Answer the question.
Hold on. What would you say? Hold on. Okay. All right. What would you say to that kid? Let's say it's your son. And what would you say to that lady?
I will say to my son that you don't know what went on that day for that lady, but as a man, as a gentleman, it's nice to do that. It's a gentleman action. And I hope my son will grow up as a respectful human being that loves women, respects women, and appreciates women. Women are like flower. We're like a closed flower. If you pamper us, if you pay us attention, we will become a beautiful flower for your life.
We've been doing that for the past 2,000 years.
Okay, so Matilda, so two things. One is, now what would you say to that woman?
I would say, sorry, woman. I hope you're having a better day next day. This child I'm just teaching my child to be a gentleman.
So that 10-year-old Nelson might say, Mom, so what you're telling me is that lady was never pampered?
No, I'm sorry, Nelson. I've been in a situation that there was an elderly man coming. I stood up in a subway. Give my position to him. He said,
Matilda, hold on, Matilda. So what we're talking about here is a direct. See, so to me, that's a feminism, right? That's a feminist, right?
What is feminism, Nelson? You don't understand what is feminism. Feminism is to have equal rights.
I was on the receiving end of it, okay?
Let him speak.
I was on the receiving end of that. So, and I'll say it again, some folks just came in late. 10-year-old kid running up and down the subways of New York City. Great place to play around when you're a kid. Open up the, not the turnstile, but the other door. And they have this gigantic spring and it springs shut. So, I mean, that'll smack a person in the face. So I held it open, right? You're running, you're a kid, you hold it open because it springs back. And this grown woman just lays into this 10-year-old kid, me. You don't think I can hold my own door? You know, you're a kid. You're looking up like you're an adult. Oh my goodness, what did I do wrong? So that to me marked in my brain what a feminist was. Okay, had this kind of like anti-men thing and take it out on a 10-year-old kid just because the kid holds the door open while he's running out and playing. So my question is, what do you say to that woman? And what do you say to your 10-year-old child that was on the receiving end of that abuse and a verbal assault? Because in my mind, that defined what a feminist was. Now, maybe she had a bad day and all that, okay? But who takes it out on a 10-year-old kid who opens up a door, right? And to tell him, you don't think I can open up my own door?
I mean, sorry, Nelson. Okay. She might be sick.
Nelson,
she might have mentally.
Let's move on.
Human beings.
No, sorry.
I don't know. There are lots of issues in the New York subways.
And you know what?
Matilda, Nelson, let's just move on from that question. I'm just going to give you some facts here, yeah, because obviously women are saying they're victims, and I'm just going to give you some general facts about society. Men are more likely to be in prison. They're more likely to be homeless. They're more likely to be victims of violent crime. More likely to be suicidal, and they definitely fight wars. And in schools, they're less likely to perform as well as ladies. So what this is saying, yeah, is that as much as you feel you're victims, there's also a lot of other people, regardless of their gender, that are victims. There is that 1% who own big business, and they will do things however they suit. But then it could be argued that if you want to change something, you create your own. If you're always going into someone's house and telling them how to live their house, do things themselves, you're always going to have an uphill battle. Women run most of the market in the retail industry, not just working. You're the woman's pound or woman's dollar, however you want to see it. It's the most influential. You decide what you buy. You decide what most of your husbands wear, your children wear. You go as far to say, indicate what kind of men are on the planet today. Because every mum brings up her children. So if their men are flawed, then surely the person who's bringing them up has something to answer for. Because men don't bring up children. Men spend more time working and being victims of their own situation, you could say. Have we got any comments on that?
Yeah, that's what when sorry, let me just, back in the days when my dad was still here, when something goes wrong with one of us, say maybe we fail our exams or do something stupid, he goes to my mom and says, "Here goes your son." You get? So that means it's not his responsibility to take care of the child, not to like nurture the child, but there goes your son. Look at him acting stupid. That's just what I wanted to say. That just brought back memories to me.
Harold, have you got anything you want to say?
Yeah, because you brought up statistics about men, they suffer more, and in the educational field, and
No, I'm not saying they suffer more. I'm not saying they suffer more. I'm just giving you facts.
Yeah, you give statistics about men. I'm just wanna finish my sentence because you brought statistics about men who went to prison, who are less performer in the education system, but you need to dig in more and to see the reason why they are in this situation. Maybe they have a dysfunctional family. Maybe their mom is not well educated. That's why they are in this way. So the family environment is very important for the children well-being. And maybe Carla, she could develop more than me because she's in the expert in that field. So you can't just bring statistics like that without putting a reason or a solution, a reason behind the statistics. I mean, maybe Carla can develop it more.
Well, in the sense of Nelson, in the sense of statistics, I'm giving you some general facts. Now, I'm interested to hear people's points of view. Subsequently, you're saying you want more information. Is basically what I'm getting from you there, Howler. Yeah, but as a host, I'm putting it out there to see what people have to say. Do you know there's a reason behind it? If you don't, then fair enough. I have some other information I can also put out there, but it's good to hear other people's opinion.
Yeah, but all statistical studies, they came with facts and conclusions. They don't just came with just numbers.
Yes, but this is also a debate.
Of course.
So if I gave you the facts and then closed the debate, there's not much of a debate.
But if you give me statistics and you don't say what's behind these numbers, you say 60% of men go to prison. Okay, thank you. But why?
You're informed.
This is why we
you're
need
informed.
To be informed about.
You come on here and you've done your research and you're informed. So subsequently you'll be able to respond to what I've said. But Nelson, over to you.
Go. Yeah, hey, right quick. We've just got a comment in here from Andisa Kumala. regarding the situation that happened with 10-year-old Nelson. She says, I would put my foot down her throat, figuratively. That's whack. I don't stand for ill treatment. I would apologize to my son and tell him he wasn't wrong for being courteous. So we get that in from Andisa. And then also right here, asking about the statistics that we're talking about. Can we please share? And that we cannot reform anything because it depends on a hierarchy. You can't reform a marriage. You can't reform the police. You can't reform capitalism. You can't reform the military. You can't reform prison. You can't reform religion. So, Andisa, feel free to go into that. Thank you on that. And, okay. All right. So, I just wanted to share that out because we've got, a lot of things coming in here.
Okay, Matilda, over to you.
I want to make sure you guys understand this and the listeners understand this. Empowering women does not mean punishing men, doesn't mean disrespecting men. Men too suffer from gender role assumptions that places expectations upon them to live and act in a certain way. And I hope and I wish men will have a movement like the feminists have movement like that half a century ago, because we need strong men. If we want to have a healthy society, powerful society, we need amazing men that they have a high standard for performance, for a life value, for family value. Same way that we want educated women, powerful women in the society as well. I mean, I'm not talking about our personal experiences. Doesn't matter where we live. Maybe we are the lucky ones, but there are men in this world that they're suffering from this. And there are women that they are suffering from this. So in order for us to have a healthy society, a successful society, both gender have to be represented equally in all the areas in the life, because each of them has uniqueness to the setting. I mean, on the board, top companies in the world, board members, more of them are men. This is changing now because it's amazing to have women perspective on a board as well, because they can bring they have a different eye to a problem. Same thing, we need men because they think differently, and the combination is beautiful. As long as we have an equal representation of both parties, we have a good system in the world.
You're not, Matilda, you're not going to get equal representation because people are not equal. Nelson and Victor and I, we're not equal. Nelson may be more.
You are.
Let me finish, please. Thanks. What I'm saying is, because we're not equal, it's based on your performance, what you're good at, what you're strong at, thing. So if there's a company, for instance, and it's already making money, they're not going to want to disturb that structure unless it's going to be more financially viable. Now, another company may think they have a better structure and have more, let's say, more women on the basis of the subject that we're discussing today. If that works, that's all great. If it doesn't, then you can see why. But this is what I'm saying about is when you go to a company and you say you should be equal, and they're looking at, well, it's working. What's the problem? And you'll say, well, we're unhappy. Well, go and start your own company. And run it the way you want to run it.
But Simon, maybe we need to give women certain opportunities. For example, mothers, they feel obligated. I mean, a lot of mothers, they cannot go above average management job because they have other responsibilities to take care of. But maybe if we can have a better maternity for mothers, then we can have a better solution for the companies, because women's voice matter. I mean, there are a lot of educated women that might not have the same opportunities in a company than a male that has the same education. I'm not saying you should give an opportunity to a woman because she's a woman. No, I'm saying you should give opportunities for the same quality of education and performance level to anyone in the company.
So if I use England as an example, so I'm British, everybody must go to school. It's the law. Now, depending how much you want to study is down to you and down to your parents. Yeah, your parents may enforce how much you study. That depends on the career that you choose. I have family members who are very intelligent and young women, and they choose to do what I could class as a caring job. But they could easily be a scientist or even an astronaut, but they'd rather look after children. Now, they've been given the opportunity and they chose other things. So what I'm saying, when you're trying to make things equal, you have to consider people's choices. It's like,
I understand.
We're all here, and we like Carla's chosen the teaching industry, Howler's in engineering, I believe, and
hello.
I think he's frozen.
Yeah, we've lost Simon there. I think we'll just pick up on some of the comments while we wait for Simon to get back in. So Andisa says, true feminists stand for equality and continue to stand up for human rights for all. And she says, I find the skew of this conversation leaning towards the extremists. Yes, they're louder, but they're not the holistic representation of feminism. And she also says that the conversation leans towards sexism because the panel is dividing the sexes and feminism is about equality. And I think that's an important point to pick up on here. Often the feminist argument divides men against women. And actually, one of the things that I find is a lot of feminists, they don't argue in favor. When I've heard their debates, they're not arguing in favor of anything that seems to lean towards my interests, even though I'm a woman. So just because someone is a woman does not mean that they are going to argue for the interests of women. Quite often I find that they're arguing for their own interests based on their own context as well. And we've seen this in some of the feminist movements over the years, where the Western middle-class white woman is arguing for something on behalf of women all over the world when her reality is very different from women in other parts of the world. So I think it's important to pick that up. But also, it doesn't also mean that a man cannot argue for the interests of women or can't promote in the interests of women from a humanitarian or, you know, an equality point of view. So I think that those were good comments there from Andisa. Thank you for that, Andisa and Marianne Rothman.
To add to that, if you think about it, the three men here, we're all parents and we all have girl children. And I wouldn't say any of us wouldn't want the best opportunity for our daughters. Mm-hmm. Do you understand? So when we're speaking, you speak with your daughters in mind, but you have to be realistic as well. Victor's pointed out his daughters are feminist, and he claims to be a feminist now. Fair enough to him. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're liberal, we're not loud.
Okay. But it comes down to perception of what people give. But if you actually look at what's helped the feminist movement, even though, as Howler's pointed out, it's been invented by a Frenchman. What's helped the feminist movement was the invention of the tampon in 1990. That's how women in the war afterwards, when the World War came along, was able to work in industries. You weren't subject to staying at home. That was nothing to do with men. Nothing to do with men keeping you home. That was due to how you developed. And there's a period of time where you had to stay at home. Obviously, we're talking years, over nearly 100 years, 99 years ago. That was a big thing. Then there's the sanitation. Then there's 1960 when the birth control was created. These are all things which actually men designed, which have helped you in the workplace. So what I'm saying is, and those men were very compassionate, because the man who invented the tampon, he saw his wife suffering. His wife, and if you look it up, it's a great story. He saw his wife, she couldn't look after the kids and look after herself probably at that time of the month. So he went through a terrible testing period to help her being able to help her family. So if you really look at it, there's been unity throughout. There's been unity. Obviously, certain cultures are unfair. Obviously, I just want to add this thing in. My time in Kenya is I would argue, is very advanced on the gender in certain scales. Every state every county has a woman MP. Regardless of who gets voted in as a male, they all have a woman MP. So you can have someone to go to relate to women issues.
And 1 second, Simon, by the way, for the US listeners, the MP, that stands again for Simon, for the folks in the U.S.?
A member of parliament.
Like a congressman or a senator.
Yeah, sorry.
In the US.
Thank you. Yeah. So there's representation for women. So it's not everywhere that is subjugating women. And I don't see why, if you are going to leave someone with your children, you're going to want to suppress it. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. But on that note, we have to be running up, so we're coming up short on time. Matilda, have you got anything you'd like to say on the closing?
Yeah, I want to ask you, why do you guys think that we don't need feminism anymore? Why do you guys think that, we are, it's a bad thing? Why there's a negative meaning to being a feminist, or being a feminist as a man being a feminist is? I just want to ask you, Simon and Nelson and Victor, why is that you guys think it's a negative thing to say? I want to hear your perspective. That's what I'm asking for.
All right,
Okay.
Victor, you go first.
Okay.
Victor, go on.
Matilda, feminism is great. Women power, women equality of the sexes is fine. I like it. I want my kids to have the same opportunity, whether male or female. Same opportunity. If you put in the work, you get the reward for it accordingly. I don't need favors for them, because if you start saying they should be giving, that makes one of the sexes weak. And I don't want to be, I've not given any of my kids any idea that you should expect handouts. If you work out at something, you should be rewarded accordingly. So feminism is great, but not the extremist ones, the ones that men are the issue, not those ones. I think those ones should be re-educated or reoriented about how they should be more liberal, in my own opinion.
And what about you, Simon?
Nelson, you can go first.
Okay, so I mean, but you know what? Before I say that, we've got a really good comment that came in from Sasha Serge Bakarian. We are equal. We are human beings, and consumers and everywhere. I guess to me, it seems like when it's convenient for people, they're feminist, and then it's not, and they kind of bounce back and forth. And then I don't know if I'm playing baseball, basketball, or volleyball. You see what I mean? So it's like everybody's a feminist, right? Until the check comes, and then everybody's ladylike, right? So so that, I mean, that's my thing. I just lay it out there. Everybody's a feminist until the check comes, right?
Okay.
So there.
Okay, I'm gonna say something. I mean, Simon answered it, and I'm gonna answer something here, an important element, and I think it's needed to be discussed in this session. Okay, Simon, you give yours.
My thing is, just like Victor, I want my daughter is not I want, she's going to have the same opportunities. And there's nobody, regardless of their gender, because women in power, in workplace especially, can be worse than men. I've seen it many and many a time. There's nobody who's going to hold her back. And the same way I wouldn't want anyone to hold my son back. I just think if you're going to come to the table with complaint, come to the table in a constructive manner, in solutions, not just bitching about the circumstances, even though everything around you is being created by the people you're complaining about. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, then I'm gonna say why we still need feminism right now. Because when a woman are assaulted, they're often the ones who feel ashamed. We still need feminism because we teach women how to prevent rape instead of teaching people not to view women as objects. Instead of teaching men and women, doesn't matter, how to not assault people sexually or abuse them physically. We need feminism because people are still blindly agreeing that women don't need to be paid for the same work as men, and they're okay with that. And I believe This is not a gender issue. Feminism is not a gender issue. It's a humanity issue. We need a balanced humanity. We need a balanced society. We need powerful men and we need powerful women. That's it. So that's why I'm rooting for feminism, to have a balanced society.
Okay.
Just
Victor,
one quick one. Right? You just mentioned abuse just now. See, abuse goes both ways. You get in the UK alone. Yeah, in the UK alone, over just a little bit short of 1 million people a year being male every year has been abused by women. So yeah, even though we have a higher rate for men abusing women, women also abuse men. So it swings both ways.
That's why I'm saying men need a movement like feminism for them, because we need powerful men. We don't need weak. We don't like weakness. We like power. And
I would argue that the fact that a lot of women are bringing up children in a way to play with dolls and be very soft and talk about emotions, that is the problem. That is the problem in many a case. You're trying to bring up men, young boys, with a woman's mind, rather than allowing a man to teach him to come up as a man in his later years in life. Because you get the head start. You know, you get the head start. So to me, the problem always comes back to how the child's been brought up. Now, argumentatively, the government plays a big role in this. And I'll give you an example. Traditionally, let's say in England, the man goes out to work, the mum's home with the child, and raise the child. Now, both parents go out to work. So what happens? The child virtually goes to school on his own. When the child comes back, the parents still aren't at home. No one knows what the child's been up to. The child is told he has all these rights and he should express himself and no one can chastise him and all these problems. Now, why are both the parents going out to work? I would argue it's 2 reasons. One, because of women saying you must have a career and go out and work. And the other thing is the government taxes you so much that both parents need to go out to work nowadays. So there's no family structure. When you've got no family structure, you get wayward children. You get more crime, more problems, and all these things that kick in place. And to me, that's the big issue. You're talking about feminism. I don't see it in feminism. I think it's family structure. If everybody had their family structure and run their things properly, ideally, obviously we're all human, so we make mistakes in life, then you're going to have less of social issues.
One quick something, and it's actually a funny element. It might bring some joy to the conversation. It's like when a woman doesn't get married, doesn't choose a partner, they all say, "Oh my God, what a pity! Like she doesn't have any partner." Yada yada. When a man doesn't have a partner and experience, dating here and there and having fun, they say, "Oh my God, he's really cool. He has all these."
Hold on, Matilda. Matilda, you don't know my family, okay? You don't know my family, okay? If you're a man in my family, you're not married, what's wrong with you? Do you have a third eye? Do you have horns?
I like that.
What's wrong with you? Okay.
But remember, in many cultures, Matilda, the women give young women more pressure for not being married. Men just kind of get on with it. But women give women, I've met so many women and they say, I've actually asked my mum, please don't talk about me getting married or having children because I won't talk to you. I've heard that so many times. So women put pressure, nothing to do with men.
Hold on. And I'll tell you right now, there are men who give other men, I know because I'm on the receiving end of this one, you're not married? Hey, is everything okay? I mean, when was the last physical done? I mean, it gets ugly, okay? So yeah, that one is equality across the board, okay?
I'm happy.
Okay. So you're happy because the suffering is equal. Oh, okay. Okay, Matilda. Okay.
Okay. Howla, have you got anything you want to throw in?
I wanted to, because we tend to forget all the female icon before this feminist movement and this feminist word. Before in the Arab history, you have a lot of examples. For example, Khadija, she was the wife of the Prophet. She was a rich woman, businesswoman. She was a divorcee, and she proposed to marry the Prophet, and she was 15 years older than him. So, and that it was normal. That's in the 7th century.
I
So,
love that.
yeah, it was a very old story that now I wonder what's happening in the world right now, in the culture right now. So if someone will see a woman right now like this, he will say, "Called, yeah, she's a feminist. She's doing everything by herself, and she's a businesswoman. She proposed to that man." So, you know, this is the mainstream media. They put this kind of feminist and angry woman in the mainstream media, show that this is the feminist image, and that's what we are not advocating for. This image, we're advocating for equality, human rights, and the misogyny, and it's an abuse for human rights, and women's rights are human rights. It's the same thing. It's not different.
Would you say then, Howla, it's wiser for women to go and clean their house, in the sense of when the feminist, however you want to present yourself, you need to come in a unified front. So you've got one extremist group that's because I'll give you an example. You hear so many women say, "I'm an independent woman, I don't need a man." That's not unity. That's not sensible at all, because we're all on the same planet and we all live.
Yeah, but don't put it in the same puzzle as everyone else. She has the right to be independent and to do whatever she wants. If she doesn't want to get married, it's her own choices, but does not define feminism. You know what I mean?
No,
it's not the same.
All right, let me explain what I'm trying to say. These women will say they're feminists. These women will come with a negative attitude, but yet, in the same sense, they want to find a man. So it's a conflict. So you just look at someone like, okay, you just leave them to do their thing.
What's wrong with that?
I mean?
Be independent and look for a man. It's good to go.
Sorry?
Everyone's happy. The man is happy. No. You're happy. Everyone's happy.
I missed that totally.
I mean, you can be independent. Actually, why we don't need men, and men don't need women. We like.
Well, if you don't need men, you shouldn't be complaining. You shouldn't be complaining, because in that statement, Matilda, in that statement, everything you've just said, everything you said afterwards, before, is just thrown out the window.
No.
You're saying, let me finish. You're saying you don't need unity. This whole conversation is about unity.
It's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful for a man to be with a woman, but a man doesn't need a woman. He can survive. A human being can survive.
Don't be silly, Matilda. Don't be silly. That's
ridiculous.
I haven't met a man alive. Matilda.
Okay, hey guys. That's okay. One second. We have here equality of microphones. So we have equality here of microphones. Okay. So one person's got to go.
But what I'm saying to Matilda here, and just to the group, is say is independent. I've heard many men who say, "I depend on my wife to the extent I don't know what was going on, and if she left me, I would need her. I wouldn't know what's going on." Now, what my point is, if you're a team as society, you need other people. When I wake up in the morning, somebody's laid the road, somebody's running the bus. If I'm sick, I go to the hospital. I'm not independent. I haven't met anybody in a city who is independent, or a village. If you live on a desert island on your own, yes, then you're independent. But if you live in a community, you're not independent. And that's to me, that's just the first thing there that you look at, you thinking, are you really for real? Is that how you're living in a society? And then you are talking about being equal? It don't make sense at all. But that's what I'm saying. It's like Nelson saying, you want to be independent, but you don't want to pay the bill. You want to be independent, but you don't want to fight for yourself. You want to be independent, but you don't want to lay the drive. You could go on.
I like to be independent, and you're not independent.
You're not independent. The house
I
you
like
live in was built by somebody.
independent human being.
So,
Meaning
Matilda, maybe I'm trying to pick up something here. What kind of independence are you talking about?
exactly, independent meaning I choose my life the way that I want it. If I want to work, I work. If I want to travel, I travel. If I want to have a, I don't know, education, I will have an education. Basic human rights.
Okay, hold on a second there.
That's just the
Hey,
basics
Matilda,
of being able to
hold
make
on
your
a
own
second.
decision.
Hold on a second, guys. We got some interesting comments here. Now that you mentioned basic human rights, all right, we got a lot of good comments here. Marianne Rothman, hegemonic, I think that's how it's pronounced. Hegemonic masculinity speaks about the culturally idealized form of manhood. Quite frankly, I went to public school in Brooklyn, okay, so I didn't know what the meaning of that was. So she said it is the culturalized, idealized form. Okay, so that was a definition, all right. And then we have from Angela Jung. Can we go back to the fact about domestic violence that women are suffering? I think both men and women suffer from domestic violence too. Actually, I think the entire family suffers. Victor alluded to that. Angela writes, an average of nearly 58% of, 58 people are murdered every day, according to the latest statistics from the South African Police Service. We're a global podcast. People have numbers from different parts of the world. A woman is murdered every 3 hours, and according to a statement from Ramaphosa on Sunday, that is the South African Prime Minister, on Sunday, 51% of South African women have experienced violence at someone whom they are in a relationship with. Well, that's probably a whole podcast by itself, right? Mate selection, right? Mate selection. I mean, that's a whole. Actually, we should make that a podcast episode: mate selection and domestic violence. So we've got a lot of really good, comments coming in, and then the last one here from Sasha had one here. Let me get back to this one right here. I also agree with the equal bill deal, with the equal bill when the bill comes. So, okay, Sasha, I don't know where you're at, Sasha, but
look at Matilda, look at Matilda. No, equal.
Okay, all right, let's get back here to the podcast.
Okay.
Sasha, excuse me, I need to see who's your partner.
There's a lot of people by the name of Sasha in the world.
Okay. On another note, guys, as usual, Nelson, was there anything you wanted to say before I hand over to Carla to do her last closing statements?
Actually, to me, I think a lot of this is the narrative. Kaola would call it mainstream media. I call it the narrative that's up there. And some things have been corrupted, I would say, in people's quest to be, independent. I think some folks have, and Simon, you alluded to this, that we are all interdependent. Okay, we depend upon each other, and the worst poverty, this is my opinion, the worst poverty that we can have, the worst type of ignorance, is to believe that we are independent. Okay, to think that, hey, I can do it all on my own. That is a story that was sold to women, sold to a lot of people, and to me, all it's done is it leads people to a path where they're basically tired, unhappy, and a bit bitter because they bought into that philosophy of I'm independent. If you want to be independent, people that are really independent is that homeless guy. He has no one to depend on. Or some dude living in the middle of a jungle. They got no one to depend on. That is true independence. To me, it's better to be interdependent, that I depend on other people depend on me. So I think that the feminist narrative has been kind of hijacked or taken over by this whole independent. The last thing on that is when a person says, hey, I'm independent, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. That also has consequences. And we've seen that nowadays with COVID-19. The number of people that find out that they're freaking lonely. Okay? They're lonely. They got no one else that they can count on. And if they were to die tomorrow, nobody would miss them. So this is that kind of strange narrative that goes out there. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, Carla, let's do your closing words of wisdom.
Well, it's a lot, isn't it? And I think I was just thinking there about language and how important language is and how much of a key role it plays in discussion, which is why we do what we do, because talking is how you get through everything. But I was thinking that maybe, as Nelson said, we need a new narrative. I think that the basic concept of feminism was designed many, many years ago for a certain society that had certain conversations around certain topics and themes, which some are timeless and they're still relevant today, but some of them are not. And I think that we need to talk more in terms of masculine and feminine energy. And I think once we get to that point where we're talking about each person as an individual and their individual rights, but how that fits into the society when we look after individuals carefully and properly, regardless of how much balance of masculine and feminine energy they have or how they identify, then we'll start to get towards solutions. And also the point about cooperation. I think that we can never really get through any of these discussions or any of these issues. The issue of domestic violence that came up, the issues about pay, about proper representation of people in politics and things like that, until we have a spirit of cooperation. When we get to that point where we will do to others, whether they're a man or a woman or whatever they identify as, the way we would want them to do to us, then we'll get to that place where we can start having the balance that we really want in society. And it's not about feminism or any other ism. It's just about basic human rights. So that's what I would say in summary.
Thank you. And I will just add, before I give everybody an opportunity to close out, as in remind everybody what podcasts they do, can't we all just get along? But anyway, thanks for that. So we have Victor from
the Diaspora Entrepreneurs Podcast.
Nelson.
Nelson from Investing in America. You can find me on Spotify and soon on YouTube.
Lovely. Howler.
Woman with Stories Podcast.
Matilda. Matilda's gone. Okay. And Carla.
From the Wonder and Wellbeing Podcast.
Okay. And yes, I'm Simon Rushton with Africa Investor Stories. We are now we're on Spotify and YouTube. And so we've got Carla back. Sorry.
Yeah,
Matilda
we've got Matilda back.
Matilda, where can we find you, Matilda?
Coffee with Matilda, and it's all on the Spotify and podcast platforms.
Okay, thanks a lot. And until next week, 7:00 Monday GMT and the American time, which Nelson's going to remind us now.
2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, New York City and Miami.
Thank you.